Hi. So, in my last class, we talked about classifications of vertebrates and invertebrates, which falls under kingdom Animalia. So, today we're going to be looking at kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista. Watch till the end. So, now quickly to the kingdom Monera. The kingdom Monera are unicellular prokaryotic organism, and they are made up of the bacteria and the blue-green algae. You can also call the blue-green algae the cyanobacteria. So the blue-green algae lack a membrane-bounded organelle. So the blue-green algae, or you can call them the cyanobacteria, have their chlorophyll in their cytoplasm. So note that the blue-green algae have their chlorophyll in their cytoplasm, and they form an association with the fungi, and that association is called the lichen. So that's why you hear an association between an algae and a fungi will give you a lichen. An example of the cyanobacteria is the anabena, the nostoc, the oscillatoria, etc. So now let's talk about the bacteria. The bacteria have a definite shape due to the presence of rigid cell wall. So the bacteria have a definite shape due to the presence of rigid cell wall. And the bacteria reproduce asexually by binary fission. The bacteria moves by the means of the flagella. The part of the bacteria where the DNA is mostly concentrated is the nucleus. And the bacteria was discovered by Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay? So before we move on to the kingdom Protista, let's look at an important organism, which is the virus. So let's look at the virus. The reason why I said we should look at the virus is that it has a unique characteristics that I cannot just let go. So let's look at it. The virus is regarded as a living and a non-living thing. Why? Because inside a host, it's regarded as a living thing, but outside a host, it's regarded as a non-living thing, which forms a crystal structure known as the virion. Okay, the scientist who discovered virus is called Dmitry Ivanovsky. So the major difference between a virus and a living thing is that a virus contains either RNA or DNA, while a living thing contains DNA and RNA. So the protein coat which envelopes a virus, that means the body of a virus which gives it protection, is called the capsid. When a virus infects a bacteria, it's called a bacteriophage. So quickly, let's talk about the kingdom Protista. I said earlier that the kingdom Monera are made up of unicellular prokaryotic organism, but the kingdom Protista is made up of unicellular eukaryotic organism and a plant-like protist, which is also an autotrophic organism and also has chlorophyll. It's called a protophyta. An example of that is the diatoms, chlamydomonas, spirogyra, etc. The diatoms have a hard silica coat around it. That means what protects it is very hard. So a protist that possesses a plant and animal-like features or characteristics is the euglena. Okay, the euglena possess a plant and animal-like features. So you guys have been hearing me say eukaryotic and prokaryotic. What really is eukaryotic organism? Eukaryotic organisms are organisms that have a membrane-bounded organelle and a nucleus. But a prokaryotic organism does not have a nucleus. You get it right? A eukaryotic organism have a nucleus and a membrane-bounded organelle, but a prokaryotic organism does not have a nucleus. Instead, the membrane-bounded organelle is enclosed in their cytoplasm. Okay, so let's look at one of the protista, which is called chlamydomonas. So the chlamydomonas are regarded as a producer in aquatic food chain. Not only that, the chlamydomonas store their starch by the means of the pyrenoid. The chlamydomonas respond to light stimuli by the use of the eye spots. the chlamydomonas move by the means of the flagella. The chlamydomonas also carry out osmoregulation by the means of contractile vacuole. And osmoregulation is the process whereby water is being regulated, and they carry out osmoregulation by the means of what? Contractile vacuole. So let's look at another protista called the amoeba. I know you must have probably heard of that name, amoeba everywhere. Okay, so now let's look at the unique features of amoeba. So amoeba moves by the means of the pseudopodia, which is also known as the force feet. Okay, that does not mean that they have a leg that looks like a human leg, no, but they move by the means of pseudopodia, which is their force feet. And their main waist, like the human now have feces as a waist, you understand? So their main waist are like nitrogenous compounds, and example of that nitrogenous waste is ammonia. Okay, so the amoeba reproduce by binary fission during favorable condition and multiple fission during unfavorable condition. Okay, so the amoeba stores their food in their food vacuole and carry out osmoregulation in their contractile vacuole. So I want to say one last thing before I move to the paramecium, and I want you to listen very carefully. So amoeba is regarded as a shapeless organism because it lacks pellicle. Did you just hear the name pellicle? That means as a organism, if you don't have pellicle, you won't have shape. So amoeba lacks pellicle, which makes it shapeless. So now let's talk about the paramecium. The paramecium is regarded as a protist that has a slipper shape. Like you see it here, it has a slipper shape, and it possesses pellicle, which gives it shape. You see the contradiction there. So paramecium have pellicle and amoeba lacks pellicle. So therefore, amoeba does not have a shape and paramecium has a slipper shape. Paramecium moves by the means of the cilia and reproduce asexually by binary fission and sexually by conjugation. It has an oral depression, which is called the oral groove. See, there are many points in paramecium that I'm going to list out in this video. So therefore, paramecium brings out undigested food through the anal pore. So let's look at the last one of the day, which is the euglena. Like I said earlier, euglena is characterized by having a plant and animal-like features. That is, it has both autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. And autotrophic nutrition is the process whereby plants uses sunlight to produce food for themselves, while heterotrophic nutrition is the process whereby organism or animals depends on another animal for feeding. So they cannot produce their food by themselves, but autotrophic can produce their food by themselves. That is why euglena is classified as both plant and animal-like, because it can do the both of them. So the euglena possesses a pear or a spindle shape. It has an eye spot which is sensitive to light. It moves by the means of flagella, and the contractile vacuole is used for osmoregulation. So this is all that we're going to talk about in this class. See you guys in my next class, and I hope you enjoy this class. Bye.